Ho 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 everyone, Merry Christmas, and at this point of the holiday season, you've probably got your tree up, you've got the presents under the tree, you've probably had a brilliant Christmas Eve feast, but the bane of every holiday season is down here. Are you tired of looking under your tree just to see an absolute horror show? Would you love it if you could just put up your tree in the year and have your floor be pretty much maintenance free for the whole season? Well, I'm gonna give you 5 tips today on how you can keep your floor pretty much leaf free. So instead of having to clean it every day, you might have to do it, let's say very lightly, once every 2 weeks. Now, in order to be able to understand why these tips are going to help, let's start with some basic plant anatomy. So, at the top of the plant, we've got the leaves. Now, the leaves' job is to take the energy from the sun, photosynthesize it, and transform that into a useful form of energy that the plant can use to move stuff around and grow and do whatever it needs to do. Now, the second most important part of the tree is the root system. The root system is responsible for taking all of the water from the surrounding area, as well as the nutrients and minerals from the soil, and bringing that into the tree. Now, as a bonus, the bark is important because it protects that whole system of grabbing the stuff from the ground and spreading it through the tree, right? You need an outer hard shell. Now, there's one component that's missing from a Christmas tree, and I'm obviously talking about the roots. So, what happens when you take the roots away from a tree? Well, you've got this whole plant structure here, which is great at capturing energy and using that for the tree, but evergreens are like the durability masters of the plant kingdom, so this part doesn't have to do a lot of work in order for it to stay happy and green. Now, without roots, it has no way to get water from the ground, which means that what starts to happen is that this tree is going to start drying out and then dying out. And that's why all of the leaf needle things start to fall down. So how do we solve this? Well, plants are absolutely incredible, and they have an amazing ability that if you make a clean cut, they can still suck up water for a really, really, really long time. So the whole point of these tips is to keep this tree humid and sucking up water from the bottom. So tip number 1 is you got to keep your tree watered. Make sure that it is submerged and there's a significant amount of water above the bark line, all right, guys? That way the tree is gonna have plenty of water to suck up and be green and be happy and basically become your new Dyson vacuum cleaner's best friend. Tip number 2, and yes, that fireplace is playing from my TV, but it's there for a very important reason, because you're gonna wanna keep your tree as far away from fireplaces and radiators and heat sources like that as possible, because the closer you put a plant to such a heat source, the faster it's going to dry out. And once again, what do we want to do? We want to hydrate the plant. Now, tip number 3 is that at the bottom of your tree, you actually want a clean, fresh cut right before you put it in the water, because if a tree's been cut for a while, it's going to start healing over that wound, which means it's going to become hard and it's not really going to be able to suck up as much water as a clean, fresh cut would. So if you do end up going with the tree which has an old cut already, it's not ideal, but the really simple solution is just to shave off like the bottom 2 centimeters and make that a new, fresh, clean cut. Now we move on to tip number 4, and remember how I said that the bark was pretty much the thick defensive layer of the tree that keeps everything working properly? Well, very often when you go to buy a Christmas tree, they're gonna offer to cut off the sides of the stem in order to make it fit better inside whatever Christmas tree holder you've bought, right? Let's say your tree is a bit too thick, they might try to like pencil it down so that it fits in. Don't do that, because what happens is that without the bark, it's not able to properly transport that water all the way up the tree. You've basically taken away a major structural component of that tree. So it's still gonna work, it's just not gonna work nearly as well. And last but definitely not least, you're gonna want a tree that's as freshly cut as possible. So if we go back to our little diagram here, now we've spoken about the roots, we've spoken about the bark. Last part is we want to deal with the leaves. So the fresher tree you have, the closer you are to having the leaves and all of this structure up here pretty much at its maximum holding capacity of nutrients and energy and all that good stuff. So if you get a fresher tree, it's been less depleted. If you get a tree that's already been sitting from 2 weeks, well, that's 2 weeks where it hasn't been receiving anything up from the roots from the ground. So the tree's just gonna be a bit more depleted and everything. And while these are the endurance kings of the plant kingdom, the closer you can get to when they were fully stocked is gonna be better. Now, with that said, guys, I wish you all a really, really Merry Christmas. I hope you've been enjoying the plant content I've been putting out lately, and I'm gonna go ahead and enjoy a wonderful, delicious gingerbread cookie. Make sure to subscribe if you guys are interested in more gardening videos that I've got coming out and already on the channel. Take care, guys. Subscribe. Let's see. Innocent little gingerbread man looking guy. Let's go straight for the head.